here. We're excited you're here. Yay!
Let's talk about hedgehogs and echidnas and little girls. Good. Close the door. G to the next level, everybody.
See y'all. Two? Okay. Thankfully. Like share the mic. Oh, good. Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right.
Were these cheaper seats on this side? Is that why everybody's on that side? It's like we got a whole bunch of seats, and everyone's like, I'm going to sit next to the wall.
Alrighty. How's everybody? Are we on?
There we go. There we go. How's everybody doing today? Face boys! Alright! Well, everybody, welcome to the Utah Retro Sonic Voice Acting Panel. I am G to the next level. I will be your host MC for today. It's about the wonderful people that are to my right, they are the voices of various pop culture, not just video gaming, not just television, but pop culture icons. So I would like to have the honor and the privilege to be able to introduce Brian Drummond, Scott Dreyer, Brian Angeline. All right, I see we've got a full house here, so I've only got there's a handful of questions to kind of introduce everybody here, and then I will turn it over to Q&A for you all's questions and answers. That sound good, everybody?
Great.
Awesome. So I guess we'll start with you, Ryan, if you'd like to introduce yourself and go from there.
Hi, my name is Ryan, and I'm a hedgehog. Hi, voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, the original video game voice working for Sega, starting back in 1998, for those who celebrate. It's been 27 years of Sonic fun, and did a whole bunch of video games and talking toys and television commercials, and you name it. And maybe I talk out of your television at some point in your life. It's been fun.
I'm Scott, and I'm in a kid now. Probably best known in the Sonic world for Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Chance 3, and what am I forgetting? Battle. And also lots of, my life is in happy Disney Channel things. I was Harold the Herald on Sweet Life on Deck. I was on Carly. A lot of TV work as well. But so proud to be a part of this beautiful franchise and bring Knuckles to life.
I am Mariah Angeline, and I am a little girl. I got started in Sonic Adventure 2. As you know, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't played, Maria dies.
Get out!
Fire. So I did Sonic Adventure 2, and then they used my voice in battle as well. But I've done a lot of other niche video games, and I'm also a musical theater performer and a pretty badass singer as well. So, but it's only been in the last year that I've got to join my lovely friends Ryan and Scott and David Humphrey as well. And getting to meet Sonic fans has been incredible. So I'm so happy to be at another convention meeting all of you.
So wait a minute, so how did they use your voice in battle if you were dead?
Technology magic.
Magic. It's always magic.
It's that Game Boy Advance technology. We all knew how well it worked, right? All right, cool. So like I said, I've got a couple of questions, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. So first question I had for you all is, what was your first reaction to the character once you landed the role? Sonic, Knuckles, Maria. What was the first thoughts that went through your head once you saw those characters for the first time?
Like when we saw like the end product, like
Yes.
as the games come out?
Yes.
I was actually shopping at Target. And it was so glamorous. I was actually walking through Target with my card, doing my Target shopping, and I started hearing my voice faintly in the background. So I made my way over to the electronics section, and for those of you who were alive at the time, you know that Target had those kiosks where you could play the demo version of the game. and there was about 20 kids, huge, gaggle, flock, group of kids, a murder of kids. Yeah. And they were all playing the game, and they're all like hyped, and they're like smiling, and I just rolled up with my cart, and I just stood behind them like.
Would you say you were feeling, oh yeah?
I was totally saying, just feeling that, yeah. And of course, somebody always asks, did you like do the voice and freak him out? And I'm like, no. I had shopping to do. So, but that was kind of my first thing. And when I, it's actually pretty cool to see the final product out in the wild being played by, a school of kids. So, rad. Yeah, very cool.
Awesome.
I was at a Kmart and there was this whole group of
I don't know, it just felt fun.
For me, it was playing the game, and I was so terrible at it in the beginning because it's like an out-of-body experience, right? You're a gamer and you're totally in it and you're like, oh my gosh, this music is epic and the levels are so cool, and then every single line is a memory, right? It's an actual memory, and so it would just zap me back in time, and so it was sort of this like really kind of out-of-body experience the first time that I experienced Adventure 2, and it still is. It's insane to me that we're here and we get to meet all of you, and but I always knew we were part of something special.
Well, I didn't have video game consoles growing up. We didn't play video games in my family, but I still was very excited about the game, so I just bought the game. And for me, my first introduction was in the booklet. There's the picture of Maria and Grandpa, and that was exciting to be like, that's me. I'm a part of this story. And that was it. I never got to play the game because I never had a Dreamcast. And it wasn't until finally in the last few years I actually got to see it on YouTube, so that was pretty cool. Going, wow, that was so long ago, but it's still so important.
I get that question a lot. It's like, if you ever played through the whole game, no, we have YouTube. Just let someone else do it for me. Just watch it. It's easy.
All you really want is just a story, right? So it's all there for you. Hopefully in like one nice little playlist that you can find. So. Awesome. What were some of your favorite moments that you had in recording for Sonic in any capacity?
Sure. I don't know if I have a specific moment, but I will say as an actor, it's always exciting if you get to have a death scene. So to get to know that I was fading off into nothing. And I also love Japan, and so it was cool to get to say sayonara. Yeah, I guess I would say the death scene was pretty fun. We get to be dramatic.
For me, I always loved the crossovers when we get to see everybody. And I never really said this. I said this, I think, to Ryan just separately, but Ryan was so talented. He was so just out the gate, gloriously talented. And it really was this. It was magical anytime. It usually was me first thing up because we wanted to have the lows of my character, so I would get the morning voice. But whenever I got to experience him and be there early, that was thrilling for me. Truly thrilling. I always wanted to be a part of a project where everyone is so talented that I just want to keep up. And so I experienced that certainly with Ryan and Dean Bristow. We would cross over, and he did the opposite thing. He would come in early and watch me, and then he would always say, "You are so talented. They're so lucky to have you as Knuckles." And what he was doing was, as the older character actor, he was instilling confidence and giving me self-worth. So when I walked into that booth, I felt like I earned it and deserved it, and it was a beautiful, beautiful gift. But my two quick stories that I love that fun fact, Lonnie Manel was our director of Rouge. She's the only person that was in the actual booth with me. So she hadn't done her lines, and she'd say, "Okay, let's do these lines." And I'm like, "Great." And then she's this far away from me, and when that actor is acting opposite you, you are like, "Holy smokes, hold on." And then I think that's why people always say, "Is there something going on with you and Rouge?" Because, right? Because I matched everything. If she was mean to me, I'd be mean back. If she flirted, I was like, "All right, we're gonna flirt. We're gonna do it all." Right? So all of that, I think, led to Electricity in the Bottle. But my favorite story, he's not here, and I want to tell it because we miss our David, and he sadly could not be here. But my favorite memory is I was he had been in the booth for like 7 hours straight. And what happens is that your brain starts to turn to mush, and you can't remember anything, right? And
This is the original voice of Shadow.
Yes, thank you, yes, the original voice of Shadow, yes, David Humphrey, who is our dear friend. But he had just turned to mush, like and no matter what he said, they were like, no, that's not right. And David internalizes, he's so hard on himself because he wants to be so great, and so he was getting mad only at himself, right? And finally, at one point, they go, no, Dave, that's not right. He takes this pencil that he's writing notes on, and he throws it so hard against the booth, it ricochets off of every corner. It's like a cartoon character. And the eraser hits him in the forehead and falls to the floor. And I am as close as we are right now. I make eye contact with him, and I don't just start laughing. I have tears streaming down my face. And he looks at me, and at first he's mad, like I'm laughing. And then he bursts out laughing. And then they go, you know, David, let's give you a break. Let's bring Scotty in. And it isn't that I am in any way giving this something more brilliant. I am just the shiny new energy that's walked into the booth. So the first words out of my mouth, I give my reading, and all of the producers go, oh, Scott, that was perfect. And I see David, where you are going, so that's one of my favorite memories.
There's something going on between Knuckles and Shadow. I always feel like no. So many stories, you guys. Wow. If I had to pick one real quick, I'd probably say the Rosie O'Donnell story. Do any of you guys know this? Do you guys know who Rosie O'Donnell is? Besides Dan. Everyone does? Good. Rosie O'Donnell was a big character actor back in the day, and she became popular enough that they gave her her own daytime talk show. It was the Rosie O'Donnell show. It was on during the day, right before your grandmother's stories came on. And so she had, and it was a basic talk show thing where she had celebrities come on. But she did a cool thing. She every Christmas she did a Toys for Tots drive where she would get some big toy corporation to donate a bunch of toys, and she would donate them to Toys for Tots, and it was a win-win-win. And so in 1999, back in 1999, they called me up and they were just like, okay, Rosie O'Donnell is going to give away Sonic the Hedgehog plushies on her show to Toys for Tots. And we need you, and I lived in San Diego, California, right? Way down by Mexico. And they were like, you need to fly to New York and be the voice for Sonic on the Rosie O'Donnell show. And so, long story, painfully long. Is there an echo?
Yeah.
It's so sweet. And so, Rosie O'Donnell said. So, yeah, right? So I flew to New York. So anyway, the whole point of the story is that I was in the middle of a job. I was doing a show at the Old Globe Theater, and I had to, get permission to leave that show for a while, fly all the way to New York. I had to, go to Manhattan, and they put me up at this nice hotel, and they did all the limo stuff and all this, crazy bougie stuff. And so the next day, I went to the studio, and I'm walking through Rockefeller Center because that's where she filmed her show. And I walked past this guy in the hallway on the way to Rosie's studio, and I almost shoulder checked him. He's this giant dude. And I walk past and I go, I know that guy. He's that new guy on SNL. It's Will Ferrell. That's his name. And so, of course, that was Will Ferrell before everyone knew who Will Ferrell was. He was the new guy on SNL at the time. But, and so I did the show, and the funny is that they had a guy in a costume who was actually on stage with Rosie in the big Sonic costume character thing. And he does this. And I was supposed to sit off stage with the microphone, and I was supposed to provide the voice for Sonic. So anything that Rosie said to Sonic, I was supposed to interact with her. The one thing that they forgot is they forgot to give Rosie a monitor for my voice. So we did this whole thing in front of a studio audience and millions of people watching at home, where Rosie is talking to this costume character. He is saying nothing in return. I'm talking off stage. She can't hear me. And so I'm just trying to respond to everything she says, and she's cutting me off. I'm just like, why is she cutting me off? She says something weird at the end, like, you need to be quiet or something like that. It was something ironic and funny because he hadn't said a word the whole time. And so basically they flew me all the way to New York to be ignored by Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah, so that's, I've got a lot of stories, but that's the one that popped out.
Love that story. Love it.
Such a waste of time.
I mean, how many Sonic voice actors can say that they actually got a chance to do that on a daytime TV show?
I know, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And I
So
remember
just a side note, the guy who is in that costume, his regular job, if you can actually see it on YouTube. Why am I leaning over? Hi, Scott. You can actually see this on YouTube now. For years, it was not on YouTube, and people thought I was lying. For years, they were just like, that never happened. It's not on YouTube. But you can go on YouTube and you can see Sonic the Hedgehog on the Rosie O'Donnell show. The guy who's in the costume, his day job was a crime scene cleanup guy. So he's the guy that comes in and cleans up murder scenes and stuff. And he was a weird, quiet guy. So when you see Sonic come out and he's all jovial and stuff, just think inside that, yes, I know. Inside that costume is a weird crime scene cleanup guy. I don't know his name. He will always be a weird crime scene cleanup guy.
now we know what Sonic does at night. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so you all are pretty seasoned voice actors and all. You've done throughout all the years multiple roles. What would you say were some of your inspirations for getting into what you do, whether it be people, maybe there were life instances that truly inspired you to go this path?
So for me, I always tell the story because she is the person responsible for me doing what I do. I was painfully shy, very introverted kid, and in the 5th grade, we had a teacher that made every single person in the school audition for the musical. I had never sung a single note in front of a human in my life. I was that kid at a birthday party. I would stand behind everybody. I would mouth the words, "Happy birthday." That's how shy I was. This teacher still tells the story of me playing scales that day, me singing La La La's for the very first time out loud. Halfway through my audition, her stopping and saying, "Scott, you have a beautiful voice." And me saying, "Thank you," and then running out of the room. And she cast me as the Mad Hatter in a production of Alice in Wonderland. And truly, I remember I'm zapped back in time thinking about it, just coming back into her office through this wall of tears and saying, "Oh, Mrs. Hall, you have made a terrible, terrible choice. Would be terrible. I am the wrong boy for this part." And her words that changed the course of my life forever were these: "You don't have anything to be afraid of because you're not Scott. You're the Mad Hatter." And it unlocked everything. It was like, I still don't have an ounce of fear when I'm a character. I'm always nervous getting in front of people as myself. But she is my biggest inspiration. And then people are my biggest inspiration. I keep notes in my phone, and those become characters if I notice somebody has an interesting thing or an interesting voice. So I'm constantly creating characters that will show up on a TV show or a project. But she was the first.
Awesome.
I would say not as painfully shy as Scott describes, but I am definitely, I would call myself an extroverted introvert. So
Yes.
I lean toward introvert, but in the right place where I feel more comfortable, I can be more extroverted. But the place where I feel most safe, most myself, which is interesting to feel most myself, but is on stage, performing another role, or singing with my bands. But doing voiceover work was not something I'd ever thought of. And actually I was working with Ryan Drummond at SeaWorld. We were performers. We did the Sea Lion and Otter Show, we did the Shampoo Silly Sea Song Review, and he had already recorded Sonic, and then was doing was auditioning for a game for Nancy Drew interactive game. And he said, they need another female to audition. I think you would be good at this. Are you interested? I had never thought about it, and once I got in the booth, I was like, this is the coolest thing. It's so different from being on stage. You're by yourself usually. I guess sometimes maybe you have someone across from you, but usually you're by yourself, and you just get to be moving around and dancing around like you're the character, and it's just like nothing else. It's really cool. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question about inspiration, but that's kind of how that started.
Oh, that's more than enough.
And I definitely feel you on the half introvert, half extrovert. It's like, I always like to say, it's like, I'm an extrovert that sometimes can have those moods. So like, it absolutely makes sense, right?
Probably most of us, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually my first agent. I'd been an actor my whole life, and it was my very first agent who said to me one day, "Do you ever think about doing voiceover?" And I said, "Nope." And she said, "Yeah, you should." And so she started sending me out on some auditions, and I actually started booking things. And much to my own surprise, I was just like, I'm just kind of doing my acting thing. I didn't really know too much about the differences between acting and voice acting. But it started going really well. And so she was just like, you gotta keep doing this. Because for those of you who don't know, a talent agent only makes money when you make money. They don't take money from you. In fact, if they do, they're not an agent, they're a criminal. So they take usually 10% of whatever you make, the agent gets 10% of your money. So she liked the fact that I was, getting jobs and doing jobs, getting paid, because then she got paid. So she kept sending me out for things. And then it was actually about 3 years into my voiceover journey. That sounds so... Kumbaya. But, my lord. I was working for this company. I told this story a couple times today already, so this will probably be repeat for some of you. But I was working for this company called Lightspan Partnership, and they did educational software for kids. Yes. And they had hired me for a video game that they were doing where it was teaching kids how to multiply, like do math problems. And so I played Sheldon the Turtle. And Sheldon the Turtle was teaching kids how to multiply. And then, this is usually how it happens, the guy who ran that studio knew a casting director who knew someone at Sega. And so the word kind of got down through the chain that they were Sega's doing this thing, and they're rebooting the whole Sonic franchise, they're making their own platform, it's called the Dreamcast. It's going to be the biggest and best platform in the history of video games.
My heart just sinking right now.
At least that's what they thought, and so did some of us. And so that's kind of how I got invited to audition for Sonic. And it's kind of one of those, a butterfly flaps its wings in Guam and changes your whole life. It really, like, any of those things don't happen, and this doesn't happen right here in front of you. So, it was just kind of a happenstance of meeting the right people at the right time. And just like these two were saying, having the right people that believed in you at the right time and convinced you that you should be there, you should do this, you're good at this. And those people, and if you can be those people for other people, be that person. Because we all need those people, just some random dude or a teacher or a coach or just a friend who says, you know what, you're really good at that, do that. And then sometimes that's all it takes for you to go, I can draw, or I can sing, or I can rock bands, whatever it is you can do. As long as you're encouraged to do that, sometimes that makes the whole difference. Yeah, so I blame my agent.
I think that's 100% truth. It's not just surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, but also believing in yourself, and that you can do the things.
Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay, I got one more question, and then I'm going to turn it over to the audience for the Q&A. And it's kind of a little bit of a fun. So throughout the years, would you feel that there are any other Sonic characters, throughout the entire cavalcade of characters, that you have not voiced that you would love to play?
I've always wanted to be Big the Cat. I just love Big the Cat. He's kind of not super important to the story. He's just kind of the clown of the cast. He's always fishing, looking for Froggy, doing all those Big the Cat things. And I've always kind of wanted to be him. And I don't know how I would have, because you guys know that, why do I keep leaning into your lap?
You're my brother and I love you.
And one for Christmas. The voice that, there was a rumor online that John St. John, the voice of Big the Cat, also the voice of Duke Nukem, for those of you who don't know, he hates Big the Cat. And that is an internet lie that never true. What he hates is his voice choice for Big the Cat. And for those of you, real quick, for those of you who don't know, John St. John was a very well-respected radio personality and a voiceover artist in the Southern California area. So the casting director, Lonnie Manella, Bruce Sabat, called him in and said, John, I'm going to use you for Sonic Adventure 2. I don't know what yet, just come into the studio at this time. So when he walked into the studio that day, he didn't know who he was playing. So he was literally in the booth, and he was like, who am I? And they were just like, oh yeah, you're going to be this Big the Cat. And he's this big cat, and he's fishing, and he's, does all this stuff. And they said, it's a big dumb cat. And so John St. John was just like, oh, okay, I think I'll do this. And he was joking. And everybody behind the glass was like, yes! That's the voice. And John was like, no. I can do something way better, way better. I was just, and they were like, no, that's the voice, that's what we want. And so for 25 years, poor John St. John just had to go, okay, fine. So I don't know what I would have done differently, because I can't imagine Big being any other way, but I would like to be Big Cat.
Such a great answer.
I would want to play both Knuckles and Rouge the Bat and have arguments with myself.
To see you flirt with yourself.
I know! I'm a good flirt, so I think I do a good job. I can guarantee you, because you've met my wife, you know how much she loves your Knuckles. She would have absolutely, died if you did that.
Well, I honestly always wanted to be Sonic. If I was going to be another character, but I will tell you a quick story. When Lonnie asked me to audition, because I had recorded the Nancy Drew game with her, so that's how I got asked to audition for Sonic. She called me in to read for Maria and Amy, and I wanted Amy. So the truth is, when I got Maria, I was disappointed, because I wanted to be Amy. I knew Maria died, so I wasn't going to get to do any other games. And Amy was a bigger role, and it sounded like fun. She had the big hammer, and I liked her picture. So I was disappointed. The truth is, and I'm not saying this just because I'm here, I'm so glad that I got Maria, because she's such an important part of the story, and to get to be connected with my friend David is an extra bonus. But at the time, I wanted to be Amy, not Maria.
All right, excellent. Let's hear a round of applause so far, right? All right, so then I guess we'll turn it over to you, to the audience. I guess let's go ahead and start raising your hands, and I will get to everybody, and we will get to as many questions as possible. We got plenty of time, so don't be shy. What you got?
Hey, how did you feel when you found out that your character would be in movies with Jim Carrey?
Is there a bigger honor on this planet than to be representing a character that gets to be in a movie with Jim Carrey? I could not believe, in fact, I think the first couple times I heard that Jim Carrey was going to be Robotnik in the movies, I didn't believe it. I was like, lies, all lies. There's no way they can get a Sonic movie is going to get Jim Carrey. It was kind of like, we're going to do a film about a car wash and we're going to get Johnny Depp. Like, it didn't make sense. But I can't imagine anybody better. I mean, there is nobody better for that role. I can't imagine anybody than casting anyone else. What an honor. And just the fact that we get to be represented by such great actors, Ben Schwartz, Idris Elba, whatever that girl was talented people. Yeah. So really, really cool. And just the fact that these movies have gotten so much bigger and better, in my opinion. And the fact that, they added Keanu Reeves in. I'm just like, are you kidding me? It's like next they're going to do Amy Rose and Metal, and it's like they're probably going to get, I don't know, Mark Hamill and, I don't know, who else, Those are the I don't know, whoever. They keep getting better and better people, and it's incredible.
Yeah, I feel the same. When I heard he was officially cast, I was like, this is epic.
Yeah, and I get to tell the story. We were at the Sonic Neon convention in Reno, and Lee, who plays Agent Stone, was there, and he told a wonderful story about working with Jim Carrey and how kind and loving and supportive and fun that he was. So that was a bonus to hear that too. You always hope that your favorites are as fun and nice as they appear to be, and so it's great to hear that he is.
I remember Lee saying in one of the panels that we did, he was saying that obviously Lee Majdu had some credits, but he wasn't Jim Carrey. No one is. And so apparently when they were on set, and they would say, Lee, what do you think about doing, or Jim, what do you think about this, blah, 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 blah. And Jim Carrey would say to Lee Majdu, he'd say, I don't know, Lee, what do you think? Here's the legend asking the newbie, what do you think? What do you think? What should we do? Can we make that even better? And I just thought, how cool that it was kind of like Dee Bristow saying, to you, instilling confidence and saying, you're part of this team too. You should be here. And what a baller move. Yeah.
as I mentioned before, it's just he leveled up from video game icon to pop culture icon. Those movies were such a huge factor into it, and I think it's it's amazing.
They keep getting better.
They do.
I don't understand how, but they do. That third movie was just like,
I know, how are they gonna top that?
Adventure 2, come on.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
I mean, it only picked the best story arc. Come on. True. And Layton is a delight. I got to interview him last year. He was absolutely a delight. So much love to Agent Stone. All right, what you?
What's some professional advice you can give for writing your first demo track?
For writing your first voiceover, like doing a demo track.
Yeah, for writing it.
How do you how do you come up with the words that you're gonna say for your act?
I have a thought. It should obviously showcase what you can do. It should be very, very short. Casting directors will tell you they really only listen to the first 20 seconds, usually. And you go, oh, come on. You gotta have more than that. But after you listen to 100 of them, the more voiceover audition reels that you can get and listen to, you'll start to see a pattern. Sorry about the P-pop. You'll have a pattern that you get to pick out very quickly, and you go, oh yeah, that sounds the same as that one, this sounds the same as that one, that same as, you know, everyone just takes fake commercial copy, whatever, and they just do that. The ones that I always enjoyed when I heard them were people that like told a story or did something that was interesting to listen to, not just like hearing all the different accents or characters that I can do, but something that's interesting to listen to on its own. If I read it straight, would it be, you know, just in one voice, just in a regular voice, would it be interesting to listen to? And those are the ones that you could probably get a casting director to listen to 30 seconds rather than 20. And those 10 seconds don't sound like a lot, but that makes you stick out of the pile. And when there's 1,000, reels they have to listen to, and they need, whittle it down to the top 50, you want to be in that top 50. And I think having something that's entertaining, not just showcasing, is probably the biggest piece of advice I can give.
I love that. And I just say, I piggyback to that, just have different reels for different things. So if you're doing a voiceover, just have that all be your great voice, whatever that is, right? And again, just get there quickly because people's attention spans, we know the internet, you can only, 10 seconds, no longer than 30 seconds. But in character voices, for me, I always say just don't overthink, just physicalize. Like for me, if I'm thinking, oh my God, how do I play this old man? I gotta come up with an old man voice. I don't come up with an old man voice. I change my whole body. I figure out where his aches and pains are, and then I just find his voice somewhere, right? You want to create, and as soon as you start physicalizing, you stop thinking about this and you start thinking about acting, which you have to do even more, right? Because the only way we can get that character is our ears. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Ryan because my voiceover.
Oh, great, Ryan, not me.
Well, my. Hold on to the money because I have more to say. So you give it to me in a minute.
Sorry.
My voiceover icon gave me that same advice, which is to tell a story, and that really helped me with my reel. That voiceover icon was Ryan Drummond. So, but it's true, he did. And so I created a story. My name's Mariah. There's Mount Moriah. It's in the Bible. So I did Mariah's Mountain of Voices and did a tour going up the mountain and did all the voices that were on the tour, like a tour guide. So, and that was really helpful because it got to showcase a lot of things, but it was a story. See?
And one last thing, if you are not a writer, but you are friends with a writer, have your friend write copy for you because no one knows your strengths more than your friends, right? People that love you.
Outstanding advice right there. All right, next.
Yeah, I have a question. All right. So whenever you're practicing voices in your home, have you ever got a noise complaint or neighbors like, what are you doing? Is someone dying? Like, what's happening in there? Have you ever got any?
It's funny, I do live in an apartment building, and sometimes when I get one of those auditions and it's like, you have to die, get your arm blown off, whatever it is, I do call my neighbors and I go, okay, I'm going to the booth now. you know, because I have a booth in my home, and so like you're gonna hear some weird shit in there. Everything's okay, just you know. And now they're used to it. So now when they hear screaming from my apartment, they usually just go, auditioning, you know? Yep, sure am. Yeah. So no police involved yet because I got cool neighbors.
Mine is more vocally, so because I'm a singer, I'll do shows and I will rehearse the whole set of my show, and I sing out in my apartment. But my favorite story involving a neighbor, we have both done a show called Forever Plaid, and I was teaching new plaids the show, and one of the numbers that we do is with plungers, but they're like plungers you'd use for the toilet, but they're like this tall. And so we are in the living room singing in 4-part harmony this number with plungers. We finish the number and we hear applause, and there are 10 neighbors because I'm on the bottom level, and everyone is going. And we were like, I think we might have been a little too loud. Applause.
Yeah, I was gonna say mine is also singing.
Yeah.
Singing, I would definitely, and I remember as a kid, my parents were very supportive. And I remember I was rehearsing for Grease, and I was practicing, and it was a last minute where they said, we need you to come in and do this role, Rizzo, and 4 days to learn it. So I was singing the songs constantly. My dad said, Raya, I love you, but I cannot hear that ooh, ooh, ooh song another time. Please. So I went to the yard.
And did your...
No more hand jobs.
Wow.
All right, next. Yeah, Scott.
I wanted to see if you guys had a favorite quote from Sonic Adventure 2.
Ooh, favorite quote.
You know what's the funny thing about favorite quotes, and I've said this numerous times, is because when you record the lines, they really have kind of equal weight because you're just trying to do the best job that you can do. And then there's this whole process where every line is recorded probably 4 or 5 times, depending on the line, unless you're Scott Fryer. And then it's like one time. But so Sega gets 4 or 5 versions of the line, and they pick the one that they like, and then they put it in the game, and they make the game, and they distribute the game. You buy the game, you take it home, you play the game, and then many, many weeks, months, sometimes years later, you tell us what the cool lines are. It's like, this is the line that lives in my head. This is the line that I quote to my friends, and my friends quote it back to me. So we get to hear what the cool lines are way after our job is already done. So for Sonic Adventure 2, I mean, probably the one that gets the most, I get the most requests is probably the first thing. He jumps out of the helicopter. It was in the 3rd movie.
He says, talk about low-budget flights. Movies, I'm out of here. I like running better.
That's the one that everybody wants to hear. What do they want to hear you say?
Always time for a knuckle sandwich. I also love with Rouge because we sort of morphed the line. Yeah, we'll see about that girl. Yes. That's one of my favorites. And he's joking. I'm going to circle back to what he's saying. My personal proudest moment, I think, working on that was what we call the prayer, right? Chaos is power. That whole segment. I remember Lonnie came to me and said, I want you to say this as though it's a prayer. I want it to be filled with heart and soul and sincerity and just from your head to your toes. And I just went, wow, okay. I took a minute and I looked at the copy and I just thought of him and I said it just one time and then I heard nothing. And I looked up and Lonnie can be very encouraging, but she's a little like brash encouraging. She'll be like, great, I like it. That's like normally who she is. But that particular time I looked up and everyone was in the booth and everyone had teared up. And Lonnie had teared up, which was unusual. And she leaned to the mic and she said, that's it. We're not going to get any better than that. So I'm proud of that.
Wonderful.
It's funny. It's just a simple one that gets requested, and as I mentioned, I enjoy, which is Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog. And I enjoy that it's taken 2 different ways. We've got the very sincere, this was a big moment, this is a big moment for Shadow. He leaves, and and she dies. And then there's the fandom that giggles about it. You know, I have been given the stickers that says "Yes, I'll die," LOL, and you know, so people enjoy both versions of that line.
All right, yeah, you.
So how much of like yourself did you put into like Sonic and Knuckles and Maria, and like have their like marks or personalities like impacted your life? It's kind of a petty question, but
How much of you is in the character?
You know, it was funny. Scotty and I were talking about this last night. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for? And I just want to be remembered and known for being a person that that doesn't judge and is who you come to if you want to talk to somebody and feel listened to and be listened to. And I feel like that's what Maria was for Shadow. I mean, she was his light and she was his non-judgmental friend who kept him kept that positive part of him still in his heart.
The credo for Sonic was always 4 words: cool, blue, fast teenager. That was it. And if you ever kind of wandered off path, you could just think cool, blue, fast teenager. And then it kind of got you right back in. I would like to think, I'd be proud to think that there's a large part of me in the character of Sonic, and there must be. I mean, I was the one that came up with the voice at the audition. For those who don't know, Sega did not say anything about what they wanted. I came into the audition expecting that Sega was gonna, or at least a representative was gonna be there and say, this is what we like, or this is what we'd like to hear. Didn't happen. No one from Sega was there. It was just a guy recording lines. And real quick, this is how it happened. I walk into the booth, and I put on the headphones, and the engineer in the other room in the booth says to me, or in the control room says, okay, you see that picture of Sonic on the wall? And I said, yep, I'm looking at it. And he says, okay, if you could imagine a voice coming out of that hedgehog, what would it sound like? Why and where would he go? And so I didn't have any time to think about it, and I didn't prepare anything. And I literally looked at the picture, and I said the first line on the page, which was,
Pick up all the gold rings and get a free life.
and it was that engineer who said, yeah, I like that. Do the rest of the page like that. And so I did. I read the whole page like that. I left, and 2 weeks later they called and said, do you want to be Sonic the Hedgehog? So, I mean, I would like to think that a lot of that is me, but of course, it's kind of just Sonic living through. I'm but a vessel for the hedgehog, for the great hedgehog. So, yes, he said, raise him up, raise him high.
There should be a.
Yeah. So I hope so. But Scotty, tell that story.
Yeah. And Oscar, right?
Yeah.
I told this a little bit to you, but for me, you know, we all had very little direction. So we had images. I remember I had 3 images of Knuckles in front of me taped to the booth. And then we had about 3 lines of description. And I knew that I was protecting the Master Emerald. I knew that I was tough. They talked about him being loyal and having heart. And so when they initially brought me on board, the producers just wanted me to yell. That was their idea, was they just wanted him to be hot-headed all the time. And I said respectfully, when people yell all the time, that becomes noise. No one pays attention to any of that. And to me, that's the opposite of strength. I would rather only yell when he's protecting that Master Emerald, when he's protecting his friends, when he's mad at Rouge. I want to have that be him. I want to do the opposite. And I remember that was the hardest thing because we had 7 producers from Japan, and I told us quickly that came in that didn't speak any English. We had an interpreter, and our director was Lonnie. And I remember the hardest thing I had to convince them. I kept saying, I want him to have heart, to be the coolest cat in town, is what I kept saying to them. I want him to be chill, and I want him to have heart. And they said, what does that mean to you? And I said, why don't we use the lowest part of my voice? Because Ryan and I naturally speak very close to each other. So part of it was a device to keep us apart. But I said, I want to do the opposite of yelling, so let's use the lowest part of my voice. And the first thing they ever heard, the first line they ever heard of my Knuckles, I finally just said, let me show you, because I kept saying chill, and they thought I meant chilly as in cold. And so I picked up the script and I said, maybe something like this. Hey guys, long time no see. I must have got caught in the mines. And the whole room went,
Yeah, let's do that. And then I said, I promise we'll get there with time for another sandwich and the oh no's, and we'll get there with his anger, but I want him to earn it. And so I think of maybe all of the characters I have played in my life, Knuckles lives in me the most because I feel like I carry that heart and soul, and I only raise my voice when it's needed. Yeah, so he's a part of me.
And I just love the fact that if it wasn't for Scott Dreyer, Knuckles would be yelling all the time.
And everybody would be playing the game like this.
Turn it down, here comes Knuckles singing. Thank you for convincing them that the opposite was going to be better.
But it's youth, right? Like the fact that I didn't know any better. I was, in my 20s, I was like, I think we should do it this way. Like now, honestly, frankly, they probably would say, shut up and say the line this way. But back then, they let us.
We're actually out of time, too.
Oh, we're out of time?
Quick one. Yeah.
Oh, we are at time. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that.
Okay.
One real quick one.
Are we good? Okay. We can do one more. Yes.
I'll tell this quickly because I could tell it longly. One of my best friends, who's actually now my agent, we lived together for a year and became very close. And a couple years after that, we were hanging out at a bar and we were talking. And I said, "Oh, and I did voiceovers more often than I do now." And he said, "Oh, what did you? I never knew that. What did you do for it?" And I said, "Well, the biggest one I ever did was Sonic Adventure 2 for Sega." And she looks at me and she said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I was playing it off." And I said, "Oh, it was a real small character as part of the backstory." And she said, "Oh my gosh, that was the only game my brothers would let me play with them. My older brothers would let me play with them when I was little." She said, "Who were you?" And again, I was a really small character. I was Maria Robotnik, and she lost her mind. Her face melted off and then reconstructed. And she said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I lived with Maria Robotnik for a year and I never knew it."
Mine are honestly it's the most beautiful thing, and we talk about this, where you come up to our table, and the second we open our mouths and we do our characters' voices, and we see everyone become a child again. We see the very first time you played the game, we see it just in your eyes. It always takes my breath away. And for me, it's hearing the stories and knowing that we have been a part of your lives in such a positive way, and these characters resonate, and we get sometimes very dark stories. I was bullied in school, people gave me Sonic Adventure 2, you were my best friend, you saved my life. And it's beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing, and we don't take it lightly in any way, shape, or form. Yes, we are to be a part of this and to be a part of this journey. It just trickles over us, and that love will stay with us always. So I know it's not the funniest answer, but it's the true answer, is to be a part of your childhood in a positive way. It is profoundly humbling. And we love you guys so, so much.
I can't add anything to that. So, y'all, thank you so much for coming to this. We so appreciate you being here. We're going to be at our tables tonight until 7, I think. So we still have several more hours to go. So if we haven't met you, please come see us.
Yeah, we're sort of this way.
I have no idea where we are. We're out this door.
Around the corner and past all the arcades and stuff.
What you said, yes.
So, yes. Go by their tables.
We'll drop gold rings. They'll be a pack.
If you don't like, I'm the host of Get to the Next Level. I have a YouTube channel where I actually have interviews with Ryan Drummond, David Humphrey, Scott Stewart is up next, as long as many other Sonic voice actors. But Ryan, Scott, Mariah, and on behalf of everyone else, thank you all for being here. Thank you.